is a spiritual deity. Freedom and liberty and justice shall fight for you. When you fight for freedom with all your soul, take it from me. This is Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB, the voice of the nation, the voice.
Good evening, Biafrans. This is BCB, the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, and I am Rose Ama. BCB brings you news and pertinent information and commentary on issues related to Biafra and the Biafra Restoration Project. Today, we are in conversation again with the PM of BGIE, Biafra Government in Exile, my brother, Christian Ude. You've heard him in the past. And those of you who have not heard him, we are going to give you a gift. I will also give him opportunity to briefly introduce himself. As I stated earlier, this is an ongoing conversation which we hope will provide us with opportunity to address emerging issues pertaining to Biafra restoration and pertaining to Nigeria's relationship with Biafra, or the experiences of Biafrans within Nigeria. So bear with us. I hope that you will listen with open minds and heart, and that you will join us in this journey as we move towards Biafra restoration. Again, this is BCB, and I am Rose Ama. I'm going to give my brother, PM Christian Ude, opportunity to introduce himself briefly. PM, please.
Good evening, fellow Biafrans all over the world, wherever you may be listening from. My name is Ude Christian. I serve my nation, Biafra, in BGIE, Biafra Government in Exile. Thank you. I hope you listen and keep listening to us as we bring you very important analysis and news and directions of our travel towards Biafra restoration. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. So in our last conversation, we talked about the impact of the elections and the violence directed at Biafrans, especially Igbo-speaking Biafrans in various cities in Nigeria. One might say, well, you know, that violence has been reduced, but the chaos emerging from those elections, the presidential and the gubernatorial elections in certain cities, has not necessarily subsided. One can notice the tension. One might even say that Nigeria is currently in a state of chaos, of confusion, identity crisis perhaps, rootlessness, or that it is rudderless. In fact, one could easily argue that the state of Nigeria, as it stands, is a failed state. And so given what we know now, what do you see is the message that you would like to offer, or anybody would offer to Biafrans who are still in some areas in Nigeria, or who find themselves in this current place called Nigeria? What message would you offer them right now, especially when people are telling some of them in some places to go back to their homeland. How do we deliver a message of hope or possibility? What should we say, really?
Okay. Thank you for that question. There is no hard and fast rule to answer that question. But before I go into my message to every Biafran in Nigeria, I want to quickly tell all our listeners that this month of May is a very important month to Biafrans. It's the 30th of May is the day we remember our heroes and heroines who paid the ultimate sacrifice that we might be free. So May 30 is Biafra Remembrance Day, and I hope everyone will be looking forward to that, to pay their respect to our veterans, our heroes, those who fought in the war, those who lost their lives even after the war up to today, children, over 1 million killed of starvation, kwashoko, and our brave soldiers who fought even with bare hands to defend the land. I also want to bring to your notice, all our listeners, that there will be a documentary coming up on the 30th of May. It's a program called Operation Light Out, Operation Lights Out, a story of Ghana Air Relief. So the Canadian Air Relief during the war that saved over 2 million Biafrans is set to be released on 30th of May 2023, this year. Further information on how you can access that movie, that film, that documentary will be made available. It will be on Amazon Prime, and it will be on other channels as well. A Canadian Biafran called Mrs. Florence Honora made the documentary in collaboration with Richard W. Fee from Berkeley Street in Toronto. So it's going to be a good one. So let us all look out for that and make sure that we watch that documentary coming up on 30th of May. And again, the special BGIE Remembrance Conference is coming up also, the last Sunday in May, 28th of May. That will be a virtual conference, and Biafrans in diaspora will get the information on how to join that conference as we remember those who gave their lives for us. Rose, I would prefer to talk more about Biafra and how we can save ourselves rather than talk about Nigeria that in all calculations, all indices, is a failed contraption. The sham that they called presidential election in February exposed further the drama, the charade that is called political activity in Nigeria. Nigeria is a criminal enterprise run by criminals and drug addicts and drug barons. And so no good thing can come out of Nigeria. And my message to every Biafran is, do not be afraid. The time will come, and I believe it's coming very soon, when Biafra will be restored and we will live in a homeland that everyone will be free. But as things are, and as it is the nature of every Biafran, we travel, we do business everywhere. We Anywhere you go in the world and you don't see an Igbo man or a Biafran man or woman, then you will notice that that place will not thrive. So even when Biafra is restored, everyone is free to reside, do business in any part of the world they like, they want to be, as long as they remain law-abiding. So the issue of people asking Igbos to leave Lagos or Igbos being attacked in the north because they are Igbos, because they are enterprising, because they are hardworking, because they are, because of their ingenuity, and because they are productive, is something that cannot be countenanced. We have to stand our ground and make sure that we are not intimidated in any part of that contraption called Nigeria. Nigeria is not a nation. People have said it in the past. Very top leaders from the north, from the west, have made pronouncements that Nigeria is just a geographical expression. The colonial masters deliberately put diverse people together with no effort to unify them and to integrate them. And they knew that once they left, that the contraption they put together will fall apart. And since 1960 to date, it has continued to fall apart. And what happened in the last election is testament to the fact that Nigeria is not a nation, and it is time for the indigenous nationalities that we are forcefully coupled together. It's time for them to be given a voice to decide whether they want to go on their own or remain, on what terms they want to remain together as one country. So my message is clear. Every Biafran, wherever you may be, north, south, east, or west, you reserve the right to do your business, to live peacefully and safely in any corner of the world. So we organize ourselves, we be strong, we be courageous, and we defend ourselves wherever we are. When Biafra is restored, people will be free to go back to Biafra land or remain and continue to do their business in a foreign land. And your nation will protect you. A time will come when we will hold anyone responsible, anyone, anywhere on this earth, responsible for taking the life of any Biafran. The time will come when a sovereign state of Biafra will be capable and strong to look after their people. And if you think that you own Lagos or you own the north and you can kill Biafrans because of election or because of anything, a time will come when we will hold you responsible and you answer for them. So Biafrans should remain strong and be committed. There is a program of Akuruolo. Please, if you hear those messages of Akuruolo, do not ignore them. Do not ignore them. Be wise. Take steps to protect yourself and take steps to invest in your land so that in the end, you will not lose everything that you have labored for. So that's my message, and I hope our people will listen and be wise.
Wonderful. Thank you, PM. And thank you for the earlier announcement, reminder of Biafra Remembrance Day, which is May 30th. A lot of our people died, and it is important to continue to remember the loss we suffered. a lot of young people don't know about this particular date, or don't have no memory because they were not there. And those of us who were there remember, we know what we lost, not just simply in terms of the devastation of our region, but in terms of human loss. So it is significant. We endured a genocide. Even if the state of Nigeria refuses to acknowledge that it is a genocide, that it was a genocide, and that it is still continuing in various genocidal acts by the Fulani herdsmen, or as we're speaking right now, the beatings and vilification of our people across various states in Nigeria. In fact, those are marks. Those are some of the indications of the beginning of genocide.
Yes, yeah, that is true. That is very true. Let me also, at this point, pay tribute to incredible organizations that saved millions of Biafran lives, because it could have been worse. The estimates of the loss Biafra suffered is put at 3.5 million. 1 million, over 1 million children from starvation, Kwashiorkor. But that could have been higher, except for the brave work of the Canadian Council of Churches, the Canada Air Relief, the Joint Church Aid, JCA, Oxfam Canada, the Red Cross, the Presbyterian Church in Canada, and so many more humanitarian organizations, Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, and many, many others that defied all odds, risked their lives to fly relief materials into Uli airstrip, so that our children, our mothers, our fathers will have some medical supplies and food to sustain them. Many died, but many were also saved. But the tragedy is, after the war, a lot of children that were airlifted into Gabon and Ivory Coast, there was no program to bring them back and to reintegrate them, and even in Gabon. So there are communities of Igbos and other Biafra tribes that are scattered all over other West African countries, even in Haiti, and some that were flown out into Canada and some European countries, have continued to live there and develop communities there. So a time will come when we will, just like the Jews, go out and look out for our own wherever they are. So I just wanted to add that. And we are eternally grateful to these organizations for the excellent and brave work that they did. And we will have time to organize programs where we can honor them and say thank you to them properly.
Okay, this is wonderful. I'm glad that you mentioned, these organizations that supported Biafra during during those years of dire need. I do believe that today, in order to achieve the restoration that we desire, we also do need to work with the world community. Because part of the challenge that we faced during that war was support from the world community. Fortunately, there were some nations that recognized what we were going through. what are we doing? What is BGIE doing in order to engage the world community and involve the world community in this restoration project? There's a reason why we want to restore Biafra. And so how is BGIE explaining this to the world community, or engaging the world community in this restoration project?
Okay, this is a vital, very vital subject, because the singular reason why we are hell-bent on restoring our nation Biafra is survival. We have to survive as a people. We have to have better economic prospects than we have now in Nigeria. We have to prevent another massacre of our people, another genocide. It is a question of survival. It's a question of saying we cannot be exterminated. It's been tried before, and we know, and the evidence is clear that those who did it the first time will not hesitate to do it a second time. You can only look at the menace of the Fulani headsmen and the Fulanization and Islamization agenda that President Buhari have pursued vigorously for 8 years, to be unequivocal in understanding that we are an endangered species, that if we keep quiet, that we will be overrun, and our land will be taken over, and we will be slaughtered. So it's a question of survival. And this is our message that we've taken to the international community, to the United Nations, to the Western countries. We are in constant dialogue with the United Kingdom, the government in England. We've written several letters to them explaining the dangers that we face and the need for Biafra self-determination. We've done the same with the United States government through the United States State Department. We continue to communicate to various nations. This injustice that have been meted to us, and the danger of another genocide befalling us, and the danger of our land being taken over, and the danger of our people being destroyed. And the evidence is there. We keep sending pictures of things that are happening to us, the things that happened before, so that it is clear that it is only if we are able to extricate ourselves from Nigeria and secure our border that we can be sure that we will continue to exist as a people. All the ethnic nationalities within Biafra, the old eastern region of Nigeria, are exposed to this danger, to this grave danger. And it's only by securing our borders and becoming free that we can also deal with the economic genocide that people are ignoring. Regardless of the fact that all the resources come from our land, there is no economic plan, there's no development, there's no investment, there's no seaport in our land, there's no viable airport. You will cry if you go to Akanu Ibiam International Airport in Enugu today. You will shed a tear. It's dead. It's one plane a day. There are no trunk A roads in our place, in the whole territory. There's no connecting railway network. You cannot link Onitsha to Enugu Enugu to Okigwe, Okigwe to Umuahia, to Port Harcourt, to Aba, to boost economic activities. There's no rail link. The roads are in state of disrepair. People die on those roads on a daily basis. And they line up military checkpoints and police checkpoints, extorting money from poor people, people working hard on the road, trying to eke out a living under very difficult circumstances. We cannot possibly continue to live under those circumstances. So it comes down to our existence, our survival. Creating that environment within our state to reach our potential that we know we can. To unleash the ingenuity of the Igbo man in innovation, in technology, in science, in production, in commerce, in medicine, in music, in sports, in drama. And under the Nigerian state, we have been held down for far too long. And this is the same thing that Kanu was asking of, that he's now languishing illegally in jail. What did he ask of? Seaports in Biafra land, airports in Biafra land, good roads, rail networks, so that our people can do business, power, water, energy. You cannot do business in Biafra land because of the high cost of energy. Diesel is 900 naira per liter. Businesses are closing down. There are no jobs. In Imo State alone, the youth unemployment figure is 85%. So why wouldn't the youth take to crime? And so social, economic, political survival of Biafra depends on the restoration of the sovereign state of Biafra. We have no other option. And anyone who is doubting this would have woken up by now because of what happened on May 25th in the presidential election. It was clear that Peter Gregory Obi won the election, landslide. And because the Yorubas and the Hausa Fulanis have decided that the country belongs to them, Buhari went into agreement that after he's done 8 years, he will hand over to Tinubu because Tinubu rigged the election in 2015 with stolen money and drug money and put Buhari in power. And Buhari is going to ignore every provision of the Constitution, Electoral Act, to install Tinubu as president, even when he is physically and mentally unfit for the office of the president. So every Biafran now, regardless of where you are, in Lagos, in the west, in the north, in the south, or in the east, I am in no doubt that you know, deep down inside you, that we don't belong in Nigeria, that the only way we can survive and grow and reach our potential as a people is to be on our own. And I call on you today to do your part, whether it's ideas or your money or whatever you can do to help restore your nation and grow it. It is a duty that all of us, whether we like it or not, must do. If we don't do it in this generation, generations to come will do it. And they will not be happy with us.
Okay, this is good. You've heard it is our responsibility to restore Biafra, to live in a free nation. It is guaranteed by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We are all created equal with rights, the right and dignity. We have the right to determine where we live. We cannot be forced to live in a nation where we're being massacred or killed. So this brings me to the next topic or question about the area in terms of the geographical scope of Biafra, because one of the things we must do is to clarify our boundaries. At a certain point, you mentioned something about boundaries, but you also mentioned just a short while ago that we have to safeguard our land, our homeland. Just for the sake of clarity, and for those people who are saying, what area are we talking about? How do you geographically locate Biafra?
Okay,
yeah.
that's a very good question, and it's very pertinent. It's one that we need to answer robustly and answer categorically. In the United Nations Council some years ago, about 1936 or so, they came up with the idea that any indigenous peoples who want to become a nation must be able to demonstrate 4 things. 1, their population, and 2, the territory that they're laying claim to. 3, they must have a government. And 4, their government must be capable to engage or negotiate with other nation states. So territory is very important. But for us, there was a country. As Achebe wrote in his book, there was a country. The Biafra we are talking about is not a new country. Biafra existed even before Nigeria was created. Nigeria was amalgamated in 1914, created in 1914 by Lord Lugard, by amalgamating the northern and the southern protectorates. And those territories, those protectorates included individual nation states that existed on their own. And Biafra was one of them. And if you look at the coastal region of Biafra, you find a place called the Bight of Biafra, which was there even before the first Portuguese ship sailed into the Bight of Biafra. So Biafra existed even before Nigeria was formed. And when Nigeria gained independence in 1960 and the problems started in 1966, and the killings of our people continued, and the assembly mandated Ojukwu at the time to withdraw Biafra from Nigeria to protect our people. It was the old Eastern region, which Ojukwu was leader over, that came out to be that nation, Biafra. And if you look at the composition of the assembly that voted in favor of Biafra being declared to protect our people from continuous killings in the north, it composed of people from all the ethnic nationalities in the old Eastern region. There were Ibibios, there were Ijos, there were Ogonis, there were Ibanke people, there were Igbos, there were Efik people, there were Goja people, over 366 of them, more than half of them from other nationalities other than Igbo. So we are one people, we are one nation. We have linguistical similarities, we have religious similarities, we have cultural values that are similar. And we have always coexisted together, traded together, intermarried, have shared core values within that region. And that region was Biafra then. And some people can argue that things have dramatically or significantly changed since after the war. Yes, they have changed. And there have been disagreements, and people on different areas have done things that are hurtful to the others. But yes, and this is why BGIE is going to champion a program of reconciliation between peoples, brothers and sisters, who perhaps may have may no longer trust each other. But that still doesn't make them less of brothers and sisters, because within a family, people still have problems and they reconcile. And so it is very important for a program of negotiation, of discussions, to continue, to be started and to continue to go deep down across the entire Biafra territory of Ijaw, Efik, Igbo, and Isoko, Ishekiri, and all our territories, so that we can come together and re-agree, if there's anything like that, to agree again to be in this nation that they all fought for. If you look at all the people that fought, all our army people and Navy and Air Force, there is everyone from all the tribes of Biafra fought in that war, lost lives, fought for each other. But in the democratic process that we so much value and that is inherent in us, in this present day, if any of the nationalities that was in the First Republic of Biafra decides now not to toe that line, there are democratic processes through which people can express themselves through a referendum or a plebiscite. If any of the nationalities want to stay on their own, then is totally legitimate for them to seek for their people to vote for that. But if you're asking me now and here, the territory of Biafra, I will tell you, it was the same territory that our people fought for and died for, which was the old Eastern region.
Again, thank you, Prime Minister, for this comprehensive response. This helps. I asked because sometimes our people forget, especially when, we talk about Biafra. Some people, I have heard people, scream about their ethnicities, declaring that they are not going to be part of Biafra, or they don't, or that they don't consider themselves Biafrans. So I wanted to make sure that we clarify this situation in terms of, this struggle. But also I want to point out that people from some of those regions, there are also people from some of these regions who see themselves as Biafrans. So it is a very complicated situation in which we are. And you're absolutely, absolutely right. There is need to build trust. Part of what has happened to us is the sowing of distrust amongst us, amongst our people. The irony, of course, is that the people who come from these localities that were part of the old Biafra, as established by Ojukwu and the council in 1967, experienced the same madness the rest of us experienced. When the killers come, they're not going to stop and ask you and say, identify yourself, Igbo or not. You are from a particular region, and that's it. The irony, of course, is that, as you mentioned, the extractive economy that now holds Nigeria hostage in terms of the extraction of oil and natural resources is destroying our land. It is not specific to, the Igbo areas of Biafra. It is the whole region. We all suffer.
Yes, you only need to see what our brothers in Ijaw and Ogoni are
exactly
suffering in terms of environmental
destruction. Yes. Genocide, in fact. It is called environmental genocide.
The economic destruction that they are facing, the environmental calamity that they are facing as a result of this is unimaginable. And it has to stop. And they cannot do it on their own. And we cannot actually, the others, like the Igbos, the Efik, the Ijaw, the others cannot, abandon them on their own. We have to fight for our freedom and liberty together. And if in the end, any nationality within us want to self-determine, of course they can. They have the right to self-determine, and we should really put in, democratic processes and principles that allow people to express themselves freely and to decide who they want to associate with, how they want to be governed, and how they want to associate. The same way the Scottish are doing in a civilized way, asking for independence through a referendum. The same way the British did when they left the European Union, asked for a referendum and did a referendum and voted to leave the European Union. Biafrans are asking for a referendum to decide whether or not they want to remain in Nigeria. It's not a crime. Every Biafran that is in Nigerian detention as a result of agitating for self-determination is a prisoner of conscience and must be released. And if the West, who preaches democracy and freedom and liberty and all that, are serious about those values and principles, then they should be holding Nigeria accountable. Nnamdi Kanu and so many other detainees should be walking free tonight. The Britain and the US should be putting pressure on Nigeria to release every Biafran that they are holding in DSS detention. But of course, the world is not fair. Of course, the West have vested interests. Of course, they know that by saying the truth, which you can interpret in any way you like, whether it is national interest, or actually what is socially right and morally right, depending on which direction you're looking at it. But the truth remains the truth. The fact is that people are being held illegally for doing nothing, for only asking for a referendum, for asking to be free, for asking for liberty. And those countries that, in quotes, claim to be the be all and end all of democracy, of freedom and liberty, are standing by and seeing these things that Biafrans are going through, and they continue to support Nigeria because of interests, in quotes. And so we are now like sheep taken to the slaughter with no hope, with no help. Because our people say, it was clear in Lagos that we are not wanted. And it doesn't matter if you are Igbo or Ijo or Efik, they tarred us with one brush. The same treatment the Igbo man got, it was the same treatment the Soko man got. There was no distinction. When they called us Nyamere in the north and slaughtered us in our thousands and disemboweled pregnant women, they did it to all of us. And when our men and women fought in the trenches against the enemy, they fought together, Igbo, Efik, Ijo. They fought together in those trenches. They died together. And so people have the right to say what they want, but in the final analysis, it is important that we recognize that Old Eastern Region Biafra land is one people, is one nation. And if we are determined to exit from Nigeria, it will make sense for us to exit as one nation. The policy of divide and rule, the deliberate sowing of seeds of discord among us, can no longer be allowed to succeed. I think we are too clever. We've got enough wisdom in this day and age to understand what the colonial empire, evil British Empire, and the caliphate did to keep us and our cousins separate and divide and rule and divide and conquer. We must not allow that to happen.
Absolutely. We must not allow that to happen. And this is where we have to build coalition. We need collective work. We need all hands on board and on deck or on board. We need everybody working towards this singular goal. In fact, it's interesting. As I listen to you, I kept saying to myself, I hope people realize that the things that you're saying, in fact, are also guaranteed by the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. Various articles emphasize the rights of indigenous people to self-determination, the rights of indigenous people to their land, the rights of indigenous people not to experience genocide. So genocide, people often think of as just simply killing, but that's not all it is. We talked about the environmental devastation. It is ecocide. We've talked about economic devastation. It is economic suicide, really. There are various ways in which people can be killed, in which a nation can be destroyed, in which people can experience genocide. Mass killings, yes, but that's the one that most people think about. But what about these other pieces that you've talked about? The denial of their culture, the death of their cultures, the death of the language, or the death of their history, the erasure of their history, which brings me to the issue of the curriculum, the education of our people, because part of what you're doing here is also to educate our people. In this conversation, we hope our people are listening. We hope our people are hearing what you're saying, because our students, our young generation, they only know of the current struggle, but they don't know the history that informed why we are struggling. The Nigerian textbooks do not talk about the history They don't talk about the war. They don't talk about Biafra. There is no mention. I've looked. It's as if that particular story has been written out, erased. And so, it is important to engage in this conversation, to engage in the cross-regional conversation that you're talking about, hopefully, and coalition that they're talking about, to find opportunity to host this forum on reconciliation. And it's not just simply reconciliation, because we want to sit down together and have a palaver, but also to sit down together and share our experiences and plan strategically on how to move forward. We don't want to go through what Sudan went through. We
Yes.
don't want.
No,
Go ahead.
that's really important, and I think if you permit me, it brings me to the final point.
Yes, please
I want
go.
to make as we round up. I want to make a very important appeal, and if you're listening today, and you know someone in any of our villages, in any of our towns, that is involved in crime in the name of Biafra, I want you to speak to them and ask them to stop. I want to speak to you directly. You may be listening today, or you may listen to this sometime. If you're in the bushes, if you've been armed, if you're being used to terrorize our own people, if you're kidnapping our own people, asking for money, brutalizing our own people, throwing them into ditches in the bushes, harassing our own people, I don't care whoever is paying you or who has armed you. I am asking you today to stop. You don't have to be in the bushes. The struggle is not about violence. The struggle is about freedom and liberty. It's about our core values. It's about our existence as a people. It's about our progress and development. I ask you today, come out of the bush. You're a young man, you're a young woman, you have a future. You want to see a bright future in a new nation. And I promise you, there is a better way. There's a better path to freedom and liberty. And we will continue to work hard day and night to follow that path. You don't have to die. You don't have to live in the bush and carry guns and carry weapons and terrorize your own people. Yes, we know that there are Fulani headsmen, terrorists who are terrorizing our farmers, our people. We are organized. Our community vigilantes are organized. We can deal with that. We know that we're not getting any help from the Nigerian security forces, but our community network can deal with that. We can work together with our community leadership, with our youths in an organized fashion. We can deal with those elements that want to take over our land. You don't have to be in the bushes. You need to go back to your loved ones tonight, today, this week. Anytime you listen to my voice, please, I want you to be alive to see a new dawn, to see a new nation. I want you to live like a human being that you are. Most of you in those bushes are trained men and women, talented men and women with different trades. You can do great things. You can be successful. You can be part of this agitation in a clever, intelligent way. I promise you, you don't have to live in the bush and go and terrorize your own people, shoot people, force people to close down their shops on Mondays. You do not have to do that. And I'm asking you today to stop. Do not listen to anyone who lives abroad, who is putting you in harm's way, including myself. Do not listen to anyone in exile outside Nigeria who is asking you to go and stay in the bush and send you money to buy guns and rocket-propelled grenades and rocket launchers to terrorize your own people, to put fear into our own people. It will backfire in the long run. It will not work. I want you to go out and be part of your community and be part of what we are trying to build, and to trust in the process that is peaceful, that is diplomatic, even though it may take longer, but it will deliver our objective of a free nation of Biafra. And you will excel in that nation, I promise you. I don't want you to die in those bushes. I don't want the Nigerian police to kill you in those bushes, because you are a child of promise. You have so much more to offer. Don't listen to charlatans who are abroad telling you to do wrong things. Do not listen to them. Go back to your families and be part of a civilized, peaceful agitation for our nation. And as you think about this and actually take action on this, I just want to thank you for doing that. And this is, on this note, I end my message to you, and I hope you will listen and pass this to your loved ones. Anyone you think that is taking part in this dastardly activity of staying in the bush and being a terror to our people, speak to them. Tell them that we have a better way to do this. And they can be alive and be part of it and experience that new dawn that we are fighting for. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you. Thank you very much for closing with these words of advice and peace. We are seeking a peaceful resolution to the restoration of Biafra. Our means of achieving this goal has to be through peace. We cannot go through another bloody war. In the end, we were the ones who lost lives, our regions destroyed. And as the PM mentioned earlier, we have absolutely no infrastructure, at least no usable infrastructure. The oil pipelines run through our lands to other areas. Why would oil, gasoline cost so much in our homelands when gasoline is being extracted from us? The gas flaring is destroying our communities. Diseases, farmlands have been destroyed. Please think about all of these, and please hear the PM. I thank you all for accompanying us on this journey today. And we hope that you'll come back again and that you'd listen to our programs on some Sundays. We have been trying to have these programs, BCB every Sunday, but that's also challenging. But we also want you to contribute by sending us information, by listening to our programs, by liking us on Facebook or YouTube. We wish you peace. Again, as the PM has reminded us, remember, May 30th, Biafra Remembrance Day. Again, peace. This is Rosama, and this is BCB. We hope you join us again. Thank you. Thank you for listening to us today. Join us next time for news, cultural, and educational programs. This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB.
Hail to Biafra, consecrated nation. O Fatherland, this people's holy pledge. Defending thee shall be our dedication. Spilling our blood will count our privilege. The waving stands and reachable is the free shall always be our flag of liberty. We shall emerge triumphant from this ordeal, and through the crucible unscathed will pass. When we are poised, the wounds of battle to heal, we shall remember those who died in mass. Then shall our trumpets peal the glorious song of victory. We score, oh mighty rock. Oh God, protect us from the heathen pitfall. Guide all our movements, lest we go astray. Give us the strength to heed the hill that is called, to give and not to count the cost each day. Bless those who rule, to serve we resolute.